this segment, we want to segue into, practical application. What happens when a school starts to take on this philosophy? A couple of years ago now, 2 years, 3 years, 2, 3, 3. Let's call it 3 years ago. I met this guy by the name of Doug Stilwell, and he's now superintendent of Urbandale School District, which is near Des Moines. And Doug started his learning journey, and he came. We went through a seminar, and he said, "How do we get this going?" And I said, "Start and don't stop." And then he hasn't stopped. And from that point, we got more people trained, and more people trained, and more people in the district doing things. And now, they're about 3 years into that journey of transforming their school district. So, Doug Stilwell. Yes, you're right. Big round of applause. Yes.
Okay. I can't hear particularly well. Am I on this now? I am now? Okay. Great. Thanks. I don't know the signals, but we'll go from there. So here's the curse I found. Once you get introduced to this sort of thing, you can't go back. And it's so easy for us as educators in our system that's existed 150 years just to keep doing the same thing we've been doing. So, in fact, just the other day I was at a superintendent's meeting, and I think it was in the middle of it, and I emailed David. I said, "I'm at this meeting, we're reading this book. I think it's your term, stop the madness." It's just more of the same all the time. So when you've been exposed to work that David provides about Dr. Deming's work, you become so dissatisfied with the current system. So I was able to move into the leadership position that has the highest amount of leverage in our district, other than a parent, which is superintendent. And I happen to work with some very fantastic people in our district. We have 3,800 kids, about 600 employees. Our community is about 45,000 people. So I want to start and talk with you about our journey. I'm going to talk the least amount. I'm going to let the people doing the work share with you what's going on. But I do want to tell you kind of how we've started. So the first thing I'd like to do is to have you stop and think about what the world might look like in 50 years. So it's 2062. What will the cities look like? What will the towns look like? What in Iowa will farms look like? How will technology change the way we communicate? What will a typical workday look like? And what will a typical school day look like? If you're finding the picture in your mind just a little bit blurry and having a hard time bringing it to focus, you're not alone. For we know, as well as we like to say we can predict things, we really cannot. And one of the things we're asked to do as educators is to prepare children to learn in the 21st century. Well, 2 points. One, we're already there. Secondly, I'm lucky to know what's going to happen tomorrow most days, let alone in 50 years, but we still need to do a little bit of planning. So we do have to create a system that does prepare children for a future that's yet to unfold. So I'd like to share something with you today that I'm extremely passionate about and really excited to be here, as are my colleagues, which is not about reforming education, because for me that's taking the same old stuff we've always done, put it in different places and continue to do it. It's the metaphor of washing dishes in dirty water, but talk about transforming education. For I believe that in order to do that, for kids to be prepared, we have to be really excited, and fundamentally we must have a purpose in order for us to transform education. In the Urbandale schools, we believe in systemic transformation. Even though not everyone is there yet, we know that we need to fix and improve the system. So considering a vision for transforming a classroom or school or district, it has a huge impact. Now, we're not the largest district in Iowa, we're not even the largest district in Des Moines, but we still impact the lives of 4,000 children on a daily basis. That's 20,000 children a year, and you can do the math on how many kids per day over the course of a year. So we haven't just jumped into this. I think David's phrase is, you teach the masses and work with the willing. As much as we continue to say that we know about change, so often the change process is pushed so fast that there's tremendous pushback, and that's what we've wanted to avoid in our district. So we're trying to take it in a much different sort of way. In 2010, as David said, our entire district worked with David, or most of our entire district worked with David. We're trying to prepare the soil. Now, the first thing I thought that we needed to be doing was planting seeds. And then I read a book called The Good Book one day, and it talked about the parable of the sower. And the sower cast seeds anywhere and saw what would grow. And lots of the seeds didn't grow because they weren't on the right soil. So it got me thinking. And then I had the conversation with my wife, who's a good Iowa farm girl from what she calls God's country in northwest Iowa. And she says, no, Doug. Never been on the farm except to eat my mom's good cooking, pies made with lard, that sort of thing. She said, you have to prepare the soil first. Oh, what does that look like in an organization? What is that going to look like in Urbandale? It's really about learning. Notice I said learning, not teaching. It's about helping our staff learn, providing professional development to these folks in the entire district, a lot of professional development with our administrative team, getting involved, understanding a little bit about the Baldrige process, about continual improvement. That's where we started. We started preparing the soil. The next thing, my wife, Mary, then said to me, okay, Doug, now you're ready to start planting the seeds. So what does that mean? What's been happening? Well, it's kind of simultaneous with preparing the soil, but we start to see folks, and these are prime examples of outstanding leaders in our district where seeds have been planted, and now what we get to see through observation and talking with them and feedback, something's happening. Something's starting to rise from the soil. We collect data through observations. We'll be doing more of that as an administrative team this year, not to judge anybody, not to evaluate anybody, but to say, how are we doing as a system? I anticipate we will still be seed planting over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. We have to cultivate. What does cultivate mean? Simply, it means to help something to get better. So we're going to be in this cultivation, ongoing cultivation process. We do it through learning. We provide people feedback. I need to provide them from the, and it's not me, it's the position, from the highest administrative level, support and protection. That is my role in improving the system. Now, we all do know that part of cultivation at some level, I know they do this on the farms during the summer. You take that cultivator through, it's not only digging up the soil, but anybody want to guess what else it's doing? We're killing the weeds. We're going to have some weeds in our system. That's going to be a process after we've given people time to start doing some of that weeding process. Basically, when we reach critical mass and we say this is where we're going, and Doug Stilwell says, I'm not sure I want to go there, then someone needs to have a conversation with me. They will be difficult, but it's important for the improvement of the entire system. We get to reap the harvest. The people you're here from today are already reaping the harvest with their students. And by doing that, it will encourage us to continue moving on more, not only for these individual people, but throughout the entire district. You see, we're taking an organic process to this change, this improvement in our district. And finally, we begin again. We start over and over and over, often from different levels, but it's the same process over and over again. You know as well as I do, it is the continual improvement process. So incorporating quality in what we do is not an initiative. I've been in education now, this is my 33rd year. I've seen them come and go and come and go. We are trying to improve the way we're thinking, which will improve our actions and create the systemic change that we're looking for in our district. It is a fundamental paradigm shift. You know, we all know that it took 150 years approximately to get us to this point as educators. Change, even in our district of 4,000, will not happen tomorrow. As I look at my leadership horizon, I'm actually eligible for early retirement this year. But as I continue my horizon, I know it's going to continue on beyond my work. So my goal is to plant it with these people so deeply into our district that regardless who may follow, it will be the DNA of what we do. I am really honored that we have multiple people here from our district who are willing to give up a Saturday, to have prepared for this, to share with you the exciting work that's happening in Urbandale. My opportunity is to get to go visit with them and say, how's it going? How can I remove barriers? What is it that I can do for you? But it's their work. These are the people working with the kids that really make the difference in our district. And so I would like to first introduce Denise Wood. She is our coordinator of instructional support in Urbandale. She is one of the smartest people you'll ever want to meet, and she also knows the practical side of how to get things done. So Denise is going to talk about her role in all of this work in our district, and then we will move either down the line or up the line. I'm not sure which direction we would call it. So my pleasure to introduce Denise Wood.
So as a central office administrator in our district, a huge part of my job, of course, is to work on the system, nurture the system. And I also get to have that unique view of the system because I'm not in one particular building all day, every day. So I get to get out and about, see what's happening across the whole system. What I'm going to share with you is what we're doing systemically to, as Doug said, plant the seeds, cultivate. A big part of my job this morning is to operationally define student-centered classrooms for you, and that is because that's the glue holding all of this together for us. So a few things for you to know about Urbandale as we talk from a system level. Our mission is teaching all, reaching all. Our vision is Urbandale will be a school district that brings learning to life for everyone. And then we also have a vision for learning, and I'll let you take a look at that. And we know in Urbandale that lots of times school districts create visions, missions, statements like this that just get stuck on a wall or put in a binder and stuck on a shelf somewhere. And it's been our job as a district, and especially for me as a central office employee, to keep these out in front of people all the time, to help them remember, this is our vision. That's that constancy of purpose. We're keeping it out there. We're helping people see where it is that we want to go. So another thing that's happened in Iowa, how many of you are Iowa educators? Okay, I wasn't sure what we would have in the audience. Iowa has the Iowa Core, and Iowa Core has the essential concepts and skills. We've adopted the Math and Literacy Common Core. But another part of Iowa Core are the characteristics of effective instruction. And this is sort of our mandate from the state about how learning will occur in our classrooms across the state. So those characteristics of effective instruction, if you can see down the side there, I bolded, we use the acronym START to help teachers remember, but that acronym stands for Student-Centered Classrooms, Teaching for Understanding, Assessment for Learning, Rigorous and Relevant Curriculum, and Teaching for Learner Differences. The beautiful thing about it is that student-centered classrooms kind of envelops all of it. You can't do formative assessment. There's no purpose for formative assessment unless you're going to have a student-centered classroom. So that's really where we've put the majority of our effort thus far in the district is in student-centered classrooms, creating those student-centered or those learner-centered environments so that our students can thrive. So to help you understand what a learner-centered classroom or learner-centered environment would be, right now I would like for you to consider something that you're very good at. It's okay to brag. Something that you're very good at doing. And I want you to turn to somebody around you and tell them what that thing is. Critical thought. This is from Iowa. Yeah.
Iowa, why?
It's where they looked at research about best practice, effective classrooms, and landed in all this. Supporting documents that we get include literature reviews and research briefs. So they've done, but this is what they mandated to us, and luckily we get to use it to our advantage. All right, so now everybody has something they're very, very good at. And I would like for you to consider now, how did you get good at doing that? How did you get good at doing whatever you've identified? And when you have that thought in your mind, go ahead and talk to your partner again. By doing it, yeah.
Does that change the architecture of the classroom?
That's what we're working on.
The circle, the teachers.
That's exactly what we're working on, and that's what you're going to hear from our teachers that are here, how this is impacting them. But yes.
Familiar with the Rachel and Amelia approach?
Yes. Just this much, but yes, that would be a student-centered approach.
Yes.
Very much so. Mm-hmm. All right, will you shout out, please, some of your ideas? How did you get good at doing whatever it is that you're good at doing? Yes. Conceptualizing. Yeah, surrounding yourself with other people that are good at it. And did you talk to them about it? Sure. What else? Yes. Lots of practice. Exactly. Lots of mistakes. There we go. Having to figure it out. Having a real life application, right? What happens when you made mistakes? Learning to do whatever you're good at. What made you keep going? Keep trying and not give up. Fear of punishment. Support, passion, internal motivation, the joy of success, finding mastery in something. Okay, I have asked hundreds of people this question. I've asked them to identify something they're very good at. I've asked them to identify how they got very good at it. I have yet to have a person tell me, I got really good at it because of worksheets. I also have never heard because I read the chapter and answered the questions at the end. Okay? The things that you've identified are the elements of a student-centered classroom. That's really how you get good at things. So another piece of Iowa Core that they gave us were these critical attributes of a student-centered classroom. So, construction of learning, putting the pieces together, figuring it out for you, attaching your background knowledge to that. Metacognition, reflecting. Why didn't that work? This is what I'm going to try next time. Educator-student partnership. At the end of David's session, he was talking about how his daughter had let her college professor know what wasn't working for her. But this involves teachers asking for that input. Things like parking lots plus deltas, saying to the kids, please help me make this better for you. How can I create an environment that will help you learn? Collaborative learning. Learning is social. You have to be able to talk about what you're learning with somebody. Even if you're a great reader and you learn a whole bunch by reading, what do you want to do? In order to cement it, you want to talk to somebody about it. Interact with somebody about that. And then authentic assessments. You don't learn to be a great basketball player by watching lots of videos and reading lots of books about it. You actually have to go perform. You have to try it out. And that's when we talk about authentic assessments, the real application. So I hope that helps you see a little bit of where we are as a district. These are the expectations that we've put out for staff. This is where our professional development lies. Doug talked a little bit about observations of classrooms. They're all centered around this. This is where we're giving feedback to our teachers, creating those loops, those areas for improvement. I get to now turn things over to Ashley Mobley. Ashley is a first grade teacher at Valerius Elementary, and I think that you will enjoy hearing about how Ashley's first graders are learning in a very learner-centered environment.
Okay, am I on? Yes? Okay, fantastic. Okay, so yes, I'm Ashley Mobley. I have only been teaching about 10 years, and 6 of them have been in Urbandale. So I'm still learning as I go, but I just want to show you a few snippets of what's happening in my first grade classroom. Okay, so the first thing that I do very early in the year is work on building my classroom community and breaking down barriers. I pull from something called responsive classroom, and morning meeting is what we do every single morning. We start with a greeting, teaching them how to make eye contact and use a friendly voice when they're greeting each other. Doing sharing every morning, promoting oral speaking skills. We always have a group activity that we do, and then we have our morning message and schedule for the day. What I found is that young students developmentally are very egocentric, and so if you don't teach them to learn each other's names, they won't do it. Even in a very small classroom, in a very small building, they won't think to learn each other's names. So if you want them to learn to work together, they first of all need to know each other's names. So we work on communication skills. What do you do if you're frustrated with someone? How do you let them know, hey, that hurt my feelings? So all of these pieces have to be ingrained every single day. It's not just about the academics, but the social that supports it. We also set goals. These were our first trimester goals. I'm sorry, the picture's a little fuzzy. But every student set a personal goal and then an academic goal. And that's posted in their data binders, and we constantly come back and reflect on those goals. It's really interesting to hear their personal goals. I had one little guy, and I was his scribe for him, and he said, well, I want to learn how to tie my shoes, and I want to learn to swim without my life jacket, and I want to ride my bike without my training wheels. And I said, oh, okay, great. So I'm scribing this for him. And so it's really interesting to hear if you give them the opportunity, they can come up with many areas that they can improve on. So thinking about that, create the constancy of purpose. So we're all learning to do many things personally and academically. And at first trimester conferences, we come back and reflect on our goals. Were our goals met? If not, we can continue to work on them. If they were met, then let's set some new goals. So constantly improving. Once everyone set their goals, then we do a quality tool, and this is our code of cooperation. So instead of instilling rules at the beginning of the year, this is what you're going to do. You're actually asking the class to tell you, what do you need in order to meet your goals? So this is our code of cooperation.
Help others. Be safe. Remind others. Share. Let friends play. Be kind. Do your job. Listen to the teacher. Work quietly.
You know, they're really cute, aren't they? And that was not mine, listen to the teacher. That's what they said, is that they need everyone to listen to the teacher. So one thing that I do want to make sure that I point out is that some teachers have tried to use the code of cooperation thinking that that's going to fix all of their behavior problems. And that's not what it's for. That's kind of, this is our goal, this is what you said that you needed. Now your friends need you to work quietly. Are you working quietly? So it's not going to fix everything. So if that's not working, then you know that you need to teach those skills, not just say, well, it was part of our code of cooperation. I don't understand why they aren't following it. They're little. We need to teach them how to do those things. As Americans, I think that we are naturally very competitive. And young children are too. They come in and they think, I want to be the best. I want to be first in line. I want to be the fastest at getting my work done and turning it in. I want to be the first at putting my pencil away and going back to my table spot. So if you know that they're naturally competitive, we need to teach cooperation all the time. And this is something that my school building has been doing a great job of. We have been working on finding games to teach cooperation. And then we also once a month have Spirit Day. And it's the whole spirit of cooperation. So the whole building meets, talk about ways that we can cooperate rather than having a competitive environment. So this first game, all the kids are holding hands in a circle and there's a hula hoop. They have to work together to get the hula hoop around the circle. So there's not one winner. It's, hey, if we can get this done, then we've all succeeded. And then the other game is the kids sit back to back on the floor and they have to work together to stand up. And that's a lot of fun to watch. And then to talk about, I noticed you were able to get up successfully. What did you do? Well, they have to communicate. They have to make sure that one person's not carrying the load because otherwise they would fall over. So you're building skills throughout your entire day. Something that I changed that was a little bit hard for me at first is I completely changed my classroom environment. So the first thing that I did when thinking about quality is I actually got rid of my teacher desk. And I know that for some people that's really hard because you think, but that's my space. That's where I put my things. What am I going to do with my things? But if you're thinking me, you're not thinking classroom environment. So I took away my teacher desk. I also took away the student desk. And if you look carefully at these tables, there's not assigned seating. So what that does is it drives out the fear of, okay, I have my individual space. If someone's in my space, then it's going to bother me. If you want them to share and work together, then you have to also provide that with kind of your unwritten rules or unspoken rules. So we have shared space, shared materials, shared learning, and also shared success. And along with this, you're giving them many opportunities to find space where they like to work. Annie always chooses the space for work on writing. She likes to be by herself, and you can see that she's actually under the coats, but that's where she works best. And then little Allison here has decided to work at a table spot, and she's actually sitting right across from one of her really good friends. But it's not a problem for them. So I don't have to assign her a spot away from her friend because she's able to get her work done. And then improving the system of student learning by having class meetings. This is a tool called a plus delta. So a plus are the things that are going well. A delta is the things that we can do, that we can change to make things better. And it's always interesting at the beginning of the year when you do this for the very first time with little ones. They don't really understand what you mean. So I have to kind of narrow it down. So if I just make it really broad, tell me some things that you like a lot about school. A lot of times I'll get, well, I like art, and I like recess. And every once in a while I'll get the academic things that are going on in the classroom, but I think that's the first thing that they think of, and that's awesome. So if I narrow it down and say, tell me some things that you like about what we do here in the classroom, then I start getting things like this. You can see math games, and that's a daily 5. Daily 5 is our literature structure, what the kids do independently while the teacher's meeting with small groups. And then something that we can do better. This says reading books with a radio so that we listen. So what she means is she would like some books on CD player so that she can read along with the book. Because what I had been doing for listen to reading before was we have the laptops and there are lots of online things that they can read along with the stories, but what she's letting me know is I would like to read along with the actual book too. And then giving opportunities for the students to share their learning. Last year was the first year where I invited the students in for their conferences. Our traditional approach in Urbandale is that parents sign up for a 15-minute block. You come in and you meet with the teacher, and the teacher shares about the learning. So I invited some students, if they wanted to come in and actually share their learning with their parents. So this is last fall conferences. And Kara is going to start by sharing her addition and subtraction fact scores, which we introduced in first grade. And then I just wanted to show you a little snippet of what she talks about with her reading, what she does well with her reading, and some things that she's going to work on.
Okay.
This is how much I had in September, 12. This is how much I had in October, 17. This is how much I had in November, 23. 27. This is how good I did in my subtraction facts. September I got 9. October I got 8. November I got 6. What should I do first again?
Why don't you tell Mom and Dad what the green and the yellow mean, and then start at the top with your reading and tell us the things that you do really well and then the things you're still working on.
Okay.
Okay?
The green means I don't have to work on it anymore. And the yellow means I have to work on it a little bit. And if it's all yellow like this, I have to work on it a lot.
So tell us the things that you do really well in reading.
When I read, I can read all of the words. I can do that. When I read, my reading voice sounds like my talking voice. I can do that.
And so what are you still going to work on in reading?
When I read, I can tell all about it and answer questions.
Good. And so what are you going to do to be a better
What
reader?
I'm going to do to be a better reader. Practice thinking about what I am reading. Math. Addition, I need to work on subtraction.
Okay, so I'll just pause it there. So what I try to give the students to guide their thinking, of course, this was the first time that I did student-led conferences, so I'm already thinking about what I could improve upon for this next year. I try to separate out in boxes the different components of reading, so your accuracy, fluency, and comprehension. What was interesting about Kara is that I gave them the option of, if you do it really well, color the box green. If you're still working on it, color it yellow. And Kara's an outside-of-the-box thinker, so instead of coloring the whole box green or yellow, she started splitting them down the middle, thinking, well, I can do some of it pretty well, but there's a little bit that I can still work on. And what was interesting, too, is other students were coloring in, like, the 4 corners yellow and then most of it green, so they were able to see that it was varying even in those areas. So that's just a short snippet from our first grade classroom, and I'm going to pass it on now to John.
Am I on here? Yes, I am. I'm John Parrott. I teach 8th grade American history in Urbandale, and I want to give you some idea of what we do in our classroom. This first slide is my system in my class. It's a big flow chart, what we do. This is on my Moodle page. Kids work on this. This is what we do in the class, and I'm going to take you through a couple pieces of that as we go through it. What I did was I've taken some of the 14 points that David Langford has adopted from Deming for education. The first one on cease dependency on testing to achieve quality, and to do that we use capacity matrices. A charting technique, it's not a testing and not an evaluation technique, it's for self-reflection for kids to learn, and you would use those for great big things, big concepts, things you're working on. For example, we studied the Civil War. That's a complicated thing, and we have a capacity matrix for that. Gives person an idea what they're supposed to work on, what they're supposed to focus on. It gets rid of the idea where kids coming in the day and saying, what are we doing today? They know what they're doing today. They're looking at their capacity matrix and figuring out what they need to know. So this is a piece from the capacity matrix for the Civil War. There are 4 categories charting on their knowledge on it, whether from I know this to I can apply this in new ways. Our goal in the class, kids aren't taking the test for the unit until they know everything to at least I can teach this to others level. Each day they come in, what are we going to do today? I don't know. What does your matrix tell you that you need to work on? How do we go back and through that? And we have one of these for each unit we work on with all of the 36 big ideas that we're covering in class. We have some student reflection here, what they think about using the capacity matrix in my class.
I think it helps because, like, when I go for a test, I normally get scared about tests, and then when I come in for social studies and I take a test, I can look at the capacity matrix and I can see everything that I need to know, and it helps me it helps me because I know what to study for and I know what to prepare on, and I know with the charts of, like, I know this, I can apply this to my learning and I can teach this to others, and as I fill it out, I know, what I need to work more on and what I need to work for.
The capacity matrix helps a lot because it tells you what you need to know beforehand so that you know exactly what you need to know for the test before you have the test, which helps a lot.
When I have the capacity matrix, it tells me what I need to learn and what it'll be on the test, or if we make a project, and it also tells me that what I need to work on in the future.
Organize how I learn. Like, I know when I'm supposed to, I know that I'm supposed to learn, like, specific things on it, so it helps for tests or projects, what I need to put into them. And it also shows that it also helps show how much we know.
If we get behind one day, then we will be able to catch up knowing what's on the matrix, and we can learn at our own pace and ask teachers questions.
It tells you exactly what's going to be on the test, which is really helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, you can make sure you know everything with the known, unknown, or, like, you can teach it and stuff. And, like, it shows you exactly, like, which one you need to work, or, like, which idea you need to work more at to get a better understanding.
Capacity matrix, it helps me, like, organize what I need to learn. And sometimes I usually, like, I will write key concepts on the bottom, like what I think I really need to learn out of the things that are on the matrix. And as I go along, I'll fill out what I obviously have learned. And then I'll make little notes on the side that'll help me with all of the topics and stuff. And on this particular matrix, it tells me, like, page numbers and stuff, so I can just go and I'll just read up on it and stuff.
Some teachers are like, well, learn it this way and, like, just learn this, but with the capacity matrix, you know what you need to learn and you can learn it in your own ways, and you don't just have to, like, use the book. You can, as long as you know what you need to learn and cover, then you can, like, learn it in your own ways of just, like, looking it up or watching videos and other materials you can use.
Not until this year when we had the capacity matrix that I felt that I've been able to be smart and I've had the potential to learn the materials that I need.
That last student here was when she said that to me, it was so powerful. It wasn't until that year, this was last year's student, that she actually felt smart. Now, she is smart. She's a bright kid. But it's important to know a couple things. The students that I videotape, these aren't all the students who are considered to be the A students in the school. It's a big cross-section. And yet they are successful in my class. They felt successful in the class. And they were. Partly because the assessments, there was no gotcha to it. I feel like in the past, and maybe I've been guilty of this, the tests were this thing I held behind my back and said, there's going to be a test in 2 weeks. I'm not going to tell you what's on it, but you read this stuff, and if you're lucky, you might guess right. The capacity matrix is the test. That's what they're going to have to study. The constant quality improvement. We continually seek quality and productivity. What I use for that is situational leadership. It's a management technique, but it's this idea where my behavior as the leader is dependent upon the readiness level of each individual student. This is how I differentiate. And on this chart, my goal is to move everyone along, and so they are as independent as possible. There are 4 readiness levels for this with a list of characteristic behaviors. I spent lots of time evaluating kids. I'm doing quick checks on where they are, and I'm going to do exactly what I need to do depending on what their readiness level is. What does that mean in my classroom? On any given day, I really have 3 lessons going on. We may be studying the Civil War, but how I deliver that depends on what the student needs. Because I'm meeting there, and they're telling me by their actions or their words what they need. And as I'm going to quickly go through these, this is how my behavior might be different depending on what the student needs. I may have to tell for some kids because that's just where they're at. I may be moving on to where we're more collaboratively, I'm kind of selling them an idea, we're working with them, all the way to where I'm just delegating responsibility. I have kids at this level, even right now, they come to me and they say, do you need me today? What are you doing today for me? They say, here's where we're at, this is what we're working on, are you doing anything in class today that I need? Students will ask me that, or they'll come to me and say, could you teach me a lesson on? And I'll say, yes, I'll schedule one. And we'll go through it like that. So what does that look in real life? I have 3 different classes going on to where we are just planning together. We meet informally, all the way down to where it's more scheduled, and they come in and I give them their work for that day. But the goal is to move everyone to the point where, as I told the class, by the end of the year, I want everyone over here where I'm just a resource in the room. I'm just a better version of the textbook. This is where we're trying to get to. So we use this for differentiation. And I have some student thoughts on that.
Well, being an R4 really helps because you can work on your own pace. If you're all working together in one class, you're always feeling held back, or you already know the stuff, so really you're just bored and not gaining anything from it. But with the readiness level, chart and stuff, being an R4, you can work on it on your own and at your own pace and what's best for you.
And it helped me out a lot. I started by saying that because I was first identified as an R1, and then made a huge jump to an R4. It was purely a leap of faith there, but and I was very successful as an R4. But the R1 really helped me because it got me more in the habit of doing my work, and when everything was given to me, it got me really in the habit of getting everything done. And then being an R4, it was much more independent, and that's one of the most important skills you can have in life is being able to be independent. And so you're almost rewarded for being independent.
It helps because I can work at my own pace, because for other classes we're usually held back, and it's hard and it's frustrating because I'm ready to learn something new while other kids are still far behind. And it's just, and even if I were to get behind or something, it would help me because I wouldn't have to be rushed as much as normal classes.
I think it's helped me in this class because when we have our chapter, you can let us move ahead when we're on our own. And in other classes, if you're ready to move on, they pull you back and it just becomes boring and dull, and you don't really get to work at your own pace, and you have to work at the lowest pace in the class, which is sometimes really slow, or it can be up to your pace, and you just
I like being an R4 because you have a lot of freedom. And for projects, you don't have to take written essays. You can do movies, PowerPoints, work at your own pace. And because a lot of the times the class moves slower than what you can do.
Okay, now I have more of the choice to do what I can, what I'm good at, to make myself smarter and know it better. But in my old school, we didn't really have that chance. It's more of a, you do what we tell you, you get graded on that, and then that's it.
Well, it gives me more freedom, that I can do more things that are more advanced or that will be more helpful or beneficial later on.
The middle school, they're telling us everybody's at the same level. You guys are all like this. all the same, then it like kind of slows us down actually instead of helping us. So giving us the liberty will actually prepare us for high school so we can be prepared to have more choices, I guess.
My change in Ready's made me more comfortable with my work because I was able to get more work done. It helps me because it puts me on track of what I need to do. I understand what I have to do more with the packet.
It's a lot easier because I have more choice of what I can do to learn, and I guess I learn different.
I guess lots of kids learn differently. And you know some themes on that about choice and independence and about controlling their own learning. Because it is their learning. It's not what I'm giving them, it's their learning. It's a student-led classroom. Adopt Institute leadership, especially using technology. We use Moodle in our classroom. In my classroom, I have two classrooms. I have the physical one, I have the internet version of one. We use Moodle for tests and assignments. We watch videos, we post on forums, we do all of those things on there. And to give you an idea, in the first 6 weeks of my class, I have 157 students. They accessed our class page between every time from 4:30 in the morning till 1 o'clock at night. There were 16,000 uses by the students of those 157 kids. I've got kids thinking about 8th grade American history at midnight, about 5 o'clock in the morning. I have them posting assignments and reading videos and communicating with one another, thinking about my class. Internet's got a lot of potential for a lot of terrible stuff, but you know what? This is one great use on it. I have kids thinking about my 8th grade American history class all the time, way beyond my 44-minute block of time that I have during the class time. And finally, this idea of constancy of purpose. You know, one of the goals of my class is this long-term goal is to help students read The Land of Choices. When they're a senior in high school, where are they going to be? I want them to have lots of choices. I want them to be able to make informed decisions about what they do in the future. If they want to go to college or not go to college, that's fine, but I want them to have that control. I don't want someone telling them they can or cannot. I want them to have the power to do that. And so we focus on how do you get those choices.
Well, I'm a senior in high school this year, and I was asked for my advanced class to write a paper about. The question was who or what influenced you in your learning experiences and the way you are now. Who helped that? Who made that big difference? And so I was thinking, and I thought back to Mr. Parrott's class because I thought he was one teacher that really stood out because the way he taught his class with the different choices that if a student was more ahead or he would give them extra work to further their education, their learning. And if the student wasn't quite getting something, he worked with them more personally to make sure they understood it. I chose to work harder, and doing that in 8th grade helped me now where I am to take the classes I'm taking, and so that I know that I can get farther with working hard. That's what's going to get me farther than being the smartest person in the world. I could just work harder. I have and I am taking more advanced classes. I chose not to take the general or regular classes. Instead, I chose to take AP, like I'm in AP Government and AP Biology and pre-calculus. But it's an advanced math class. It's not required. And I hope that taking these classes will help me with my college education and getting that done and having more of a good understanding of what I'm doing. Having it not be so difficult to go from high school where things are typically less difficult than going to college and all of a sudden being shocked and not knowing how to
This system that I use, what this flow chart represents, the only purpose of this has got nothing to do with that grade in 8th grade American history, where that grade doesn't really matter. It's not about that grade. This is about this whole process, this whole learning process in which I am one piece of in the Urbandale Community Schools. So students like the last student we just heard from, so that when she's a senior in high school right now, so as she finishes up her career, she can choose to do whatever she needs to do, and she feels like she has the skills to be successful in college if she wants to be successful in life. And that's what we're trying to do. Thank you.
Am I on now? Can you hear me? Okay. I want to thank John for sending me Ari, because I have her in AP Biology right now. I have a really good colleague, Mark Herman, who kind of really initiated my start into this path. I think I instinctually always felt like as a teacher, this is what my role was. But when and some of you look like you're maybe learning to become teachers, so you're in education right now, and you're going to leave this lovely world of academia, and you're going to enter into a high school, and you're going to have to survive your first year. And unfortunately, when you do that, you kind of get indoctrined into the old traditional ways. And so I survived, and I felt like I was kind of, a little different than some of the traditional ways, and get ingrained in still these overall questions of, why am I teaching? Should I be a teacher? And so Mark and I would talk a lot about that concept of what is our purpose? Why are we here? And so he encouraged me to go to the Langford quality training, and I did that last summer. And after those 4 days, I found myself asking me this, this question kept running through my head. And so I thought I should figure out why. Let's step back now. I've taught for 10 years. Why am I doing this still? Okay, why do I want to do this? And so these are some of my main ideas. Ultimately, I sit over the summer. I'm a stay-at-home mom during the summer. It's lovely. I hang out with my 3-year-old, and I watch him be excited to learn new things and be excited. He's just excited about everything. I don't even, a ladybug is like the coolest thing that ever happened. And I wonder how we somehow take that awesome enthusiasm for learning, and then I see them as juniors and seniors in my room, even really good juniors and seniors, like Ari, that sometimes that motivation, it's like we have demotivated them to such a level that I almost can't get them excited to do really fun things. So I want to instill a curiosity. As a science teacher, I feel like I want my students to question. I want them to wonder. I want them to feel like they have some ownership over what they're doing. And then all the way down to I want them to have fun. A lot of students feel like they're bored, and when they're bored, they don't want to do anything. And so I feel like part of my role as an educator is to be entertaining. And there are some days that happens more than others. But my hope is that they want to be in my room. And so we have the traditional idea. That was kind of my room last year. I think I wasn't completely traditional, but I still felt like, I felt like I had to save face amongst other teachers. I needed to have in my syllabus that if it was late, I will dock off half credit, and if it's after the date of this date, I'm not going to take it, and you'll have these certain tests, and just really rigid. What I found was every time I had a student that would maybe be a special cause, kind of behind closed doors, I say, hey, let's just make up something that'll work for you. How are we going to get you to learn this? And so I was hiding kind of these adjustments I was doing, and I realized I don't have to do that anymore. Okay, I went to the quality workshop, and I realized it's okay to be that way, and I can just do that up front. I don't have to have the game in the front that make other teachers feel like I'm doing the right thing and do what I felt like was right in my heart, I guess, maybe. And so now I clearly state my learning goals for my students. They have a capacity matrix for each unit. We have target dates, but there's no due dates. That's a big change for a lot of these students. I want them to learn it when they can learn it. I have students who are in football games on a Thursday night until they don't get home till 1 in the morning. On a Friday, they come to my class and they are exhausted. Now, yes, granted, maybe I'm supposed to say, oh, toughen up and just, but if I was that person, I would be exhausted too, and I wouldn't learn as much that day. And so I actually had one student who said, Mrs. Bunce, I just want to put my head on the table, but I promise I'm going to listen. I said, that's fine. I'm not, as long as you are here and you are trying to be gaining something, that's all that really matters. And then on Monday, you'll probably be more excited to be here, and so we'll get something else out of you that day. So the kids don't have to worry about something's due on Thursday. They just need to worry about, I need to learn that. And unfortunately, and we talked about this as a class, that there is a due date at some point my grades are due. a secretary will come to me and make me turn something in. So you need to help me at some point get that to them. I try to have my students feel like we're a team. So as much as I can, I want my students to feel like when they come to my room, it's not us, it's not them versus me, it's not me versus them, that we are together. We're helping walk them through this journey. And so I'm trying to make them more active. I felt like I still had student-centered classrooms, but I don't know that my students were actually part of the classroom. I don't know how to explain that. So I would do an activity, like maybe a lab or something, but I never up front told the kids, on Thursday, we're going to do this activity, and here's why I'm having you do this activity, and here's what I'm thinking you're supposed to get out of it. They would just come in, and then we'd do this really neat thing, and they would learn things in that moment, and then they'd just kind of wait till the next day. Mrs. Bunch pulled something else out, and we did it. And so now I have them in the full plan. There are people farther along in this than I am. So I could give a guided bus tour of my class, which is kind of what I did last year, where I was driving the bus, and I was letting them learn things when I felt like we should get off the bus. Now I give them a car, and I give them a map, and I say, here are the spots you need to stop at, and hopefully get there by the end of the semester. And I'm hoping at some point I can just say, here's this awesome state called biology, and you just need to go explore it. And I'm not there yet, but that's my hope. So I'm creeping there slowly. So now I have to empower my classroom a little more, and not just myself, but my students and everything about my classroom. So I sat back and I wanted to improve my system, and I did these 4 things. And along the way, also then strengthen my communication with my students. So like I said, each unit has a matrix. This is what the matrix would look like for Unit 3 in AP Biology. And this is not the matrix that the students would do their metacognition on. This is the matrix that I actually use to plan my class. So, those lesson planning books that you get, they're like blue, and they have all these dates, and I don't have one of those. Okay, I never did. I never liked them. That was probably why I should have known this was good for me. So I instead sat back and thought, okay, I had this really neat activity. I always did it anyways, but why did I do it? Where was it fitting? And so I went through and I made sure that everywhere, I call them quests. Okay, so they're questing to learn something, quests for knowledge. I was a little bit of a gamer in my past, so that's where that came from. So my thought was, it doesn't matter when the kid gains the skill or the knowledge, but if they get it, then they earn their quest points. Okay, if I play a video game, it doesn't matter if I'm level 20 3 days in, I'm still level 20. I got there, right? Nobody can take it back. And I got there. I did the same stuff somebody else did at level 20 at 2 in the morning. I did it, the next day at 8 in the morning, whatever. Same thing, just different time. So the students are going through this chart trying to accomplish each of these quests. Some happen online in a digital world, and some happen in the classroom. And so I developed a quest board. That's my son scolding them to make sure they're doing their quests. So the quest board is that they're supposed to, if they're confused, for example, they come in my room and they ask me, what am I supposed to do today? I'll guide them. Here's this awesome board where it's supposed to tell you, what we're supposed to do today. And I have a dates board next door to it where my target dates are located, and this is what they're supposed to try to get done. Every unit has those quests, but also has a challenge, which is kind of like a test, but they have multiple opportunities on that. And then ultimately, by the end, I do what I call inspections of learning. So I'm inspecting my product semester test. So that's kind of a summative, cumulative idea that at some point, I want to see what stuck. And it's really more, I tell my students, more for me than it is for them. And I had that just happen, actually. We did our first inspection in AP Biology, and I had to go, wow, something didn't work. So we stepped back, and we just scratched the whole thing, and we're trying again. Okay. Relevance projects, those are things that help the students understand the application, so making it real life. So right now we're learning about bones and muscles and anatomy, and so their relevance project is that they are supposed to write a paper about an injury that happens in a pro sport. So I have video clips of various injuries. They're very kind of gruesome sometimes. And so they watch this little video clip, and then they have to write about what bones, what ligaments, what muscles, and so it's really real life. And occasionally I have a student come up to me and say, I just tore my ACL in football. Can I just write about that? Sure. It's them. There's nothing more real than that. So that is how that works. And as they're doing the quests and they finish them, they then come in and they actually then evaluate using metacognition. They evaluate where they think they are on this little continuum. And eventually I get those scores back. And so I can start studying the data. Okay, and so I have, thanks to Moodle, I have quest bars or progress bars. Every student gets to see their individual one, and I as the guide, I guess you might say, I get to see all of them. And so you'll notice there's a few students that alarm me. red bars, thanks to Mr. Herman, he's now color-coded this, so it's really quick to tell. Red bars are a problem. They're not progressing. And so I can actually click on the little magnifying glass and I can figure out which quest they have accomplished and go congratulate them on that. And then I can find out which quests they haven't accomplished. And so I'll have special, hey, today these 5 people are going to come and they're going to be on my team. And we're going to get quest 4 done because somehow you don't know what you're doing on that. So we got to figure that out. I'm going to help you. And so this works way better than saying if it's late, I'm going to give you half credit. This is responsibility. Because now Mrs. Bunce is going to actually talk to me. Right? There's some of them, will you just give me the half credit and not bug me? I mean, no, I really want to help you. I want you to learn how to do this, how to get it done. I want you to do that. And so they've learned quickly they can't run away. I will find them, and they will have to figure it out. I also look at the capacity matrix to figure out how well, just as a whole, the class feels like they understand things, and I hold clinic sessions then to address certain areas that are rather low. So membrane carbohydrates, it seemed like nobody really, they didn't know that very well. So I had a whole clinic on just what is a carbohydrate, why is it in a membrane, what is it supposed to do for cells, give them resources. These capacity matrices also include links where the students can actually go and then watch a video of me teaching about it, or then go to a website that's helpful, so they can resource this anytime. 2 in the morning, they could be learning AP biology from various people other than me, which is helpful. Then I had this moment. This was an interesting moment. So I sat back and thought, I need to look big picture. How are they really doing compared to last year? Didn't look so good. But this is a blip. Okay, so this is just one little point, and there's a lot of variables. So I sat back and I closed my laptop, and my room was just me, locked the door, so nobody was going to come in and bother me. And I just had a stack of sticky notes. I started listing off everything I thought changed in my new system. And I started sorting them and what were my big things. Well, I realized all of a sudden, when I realigned my system, I realigned what was in my units. And in Unit 1 for AP Biology was what was actually in 2 units before. So I added I kind of expected more out of them, and for whatever reason, it didn't come out quite the way I expected. And so I sat down, the next thing is I asked my students. I figured out what I thought the reason was, now I wanted their input. So they gave me some choice. I gave them a choice about when I give my clinics and my direct instruction, how do you want that to look? They told me, we really like it when you write with a pen and paper. We really don't like PowerPoint slides. That was not what I was expecting, but that is what they want, so that's what I do from now on. They want to see me draw, so they feel like if I can do it, they can do it. I then took a survey. I wanted to figure out why they're still in my room, because there was a drop date that came and went. Why did they stay? Why are you here? So I had them fill out this survey. It gives me feedback. It gives me an understanding of maybe what their motivation is. I also had them fill out a plus delta. Again, just giving me more feedback, what things need to change. Something that came up, all of them loved the flexibility, but they also said the flexibility is sometimes scary. Because now I'm in charge, Mrs. Bunce, and I don't always know that I do a good job at that. And so some of them have specifically said, will you please help me, because I'm not good at keeping track of my time, I'm procrastinating. So I have plans to meet with certain students every Tuesday, and we go through their chart together, because they need that. Other students don't, so don't worry about it. And so now I'm actually starting to change what I do. I'm modifying my quests. I had a few quests that were multiple choice, and those quests have problems, because my smart AP Bio type kids, they have the photographic memories. They start memorizing the first 3 words, and the first 3 words of the answer, boom, they got it. They have no idea what the question, I mean, they wouldn't even know what the question was about. So that was my fault. I screwed up. So I had to go back, and I took what were the most important multiple choice questions, and now those are little essays. I have to write what the answer is and why. So I have a better insight into what they're learning, rather than letting them just fly through it. And I'm building in a little more instruction. Some kids said they wanted a little more direct instruction. So I'm making some changes, and I'm in the middle of this process. I started, and I'm still going. And even though the data didn't make me at first think I was doing the right thing, I still think I am. In the core, I'm enjoying this year way more than I ever have enjoyed teaching. And my students and we're a team, and it's really fun. And I kind of am ignoring the other teachers, the naysayers, and I'm just going with what I'm doing. Because in the end, the students, they want to come to my classroom, and I don't have kids leave my classroom. If they do leave my classroom, they're really sorry. They'll come and say, Mrs. Bunce, I'm sorry, but my mom scheduled this doctor's appointment. I have to go. I tried to change it. Okay, I get that rather than they want it scheduled. So I feel like in my room now, I'm no longer a teacher, but I'm actually just one of them. I'm a leader of their learning. I'm empowering their learning, and that's been really neat to see. So I'm going to transition now over to Mark, who's just going to do some closing.
And my name's Mark Lane. I'm an elementary principal in Urbandale. I'm principal of Olmsted Elementary. It's a pre-K through 5 building, about 450 students. And I guess I'm going to do what I think any good leader does, is I'm going to stand on the shoulder of giants, because I want to honor your time too, and know that it's lunchtime. So we're going to go from about 7 slides to 1. And we're going to go to this slide right here. And you've heard a lot about constancy of purpose. And you've heard a lot about a system of profound knowledge. And when you have that theory embedded, and I give a huge thank you to Dr. Stilwell and to David for empowering me as a leader to just get out of people's way, to instill a constancy of purpose, to say, here's what we're about. And it's not about goals. Yeah, we get Iowa assessments data printed in the Des Moines Register, but that's not what I'm about. I don't care. I'm about kids learning. And I send that message every day to my teachers. And so on some of my slides, I had a quote from teachers that I was going to share with you, but this one really stood out to me because last year, one of my teachers who's taught in Urbandale for over 40 years, she's now in her 44th year of teaching in Urbandale, first grade teacher. She came into my office one day after a district staff development day where teachers from across the district had gotten to be together and talk about what they were doing in their classrooms and sharing ideas. And she came into my office and she said this to me: I just want to let you know how proud I am to work in this school. Somebody that 10 years ago could have retired and stayed home and worked on her garden. She's still impacting kids' lives. And she's prouder today than she was 20 years ago. I remind her often she was teaching at Olmsted before I was born. But she is a passionate, dedicated person who encapsulates that idea of that constancy of purpose, who is a lifelong learner, who is eager to hear about the things that I bring back because of what Doug has shared with us and what David has shared with us and what her peers share with her when we get together. And so these are things that I just think about that really have brought focus to our work. You know, that idea of personal mastery. I have to feel empowered as a leader to have that constancy of purpose, and I have to provide that environment for each teacher to feel that constancy of purpose, to have that personal mastery over what we do, that we have a moral imperative. I know these people, and I sit here, and every time I listen to them talk, I think, I have 3 of my own children. I would die to have my kid in that teacher's room. And that's what I want when I go into every room in my building. I want to have that feeling of this is where I want my own children to be. And so that constancy of purpose, that theory behind that is that shared aim, that shared work that we do. And so when you get to a point where you have people at that readiness level, I think about my own teachers as my learners. I'm the lead learner in our building. I'm learning along with them, but I also want to provide an environment for them to learn on a daily basis. And so on Thursday of this week, I sat down with my building leadership team, 6 teachers that represent the teachers in our building. We have Tuesday morning staff development and a couple late starts each month on Wednesdays. So we get, probably about 4 to 5 hours, 6 hours a month of our learning time. And we sat down together on Thursday to talk about learning in our building and talk about professional development. And it was so exciting because the result of an hour of work of just talking, basically our plan for the month of October is on Tuesday of next week, we're going to ask our staff 2 questions. What is it you need to work on, and how can we help? And then we're going to get out of their way. But that only works when you have that constancy of purpose. I have 30 teachers in my building. I can't have 30 arrows going in an independent, I'm the king or queen of my kingdom direction. It works when we have a shared purpose, a shared aim, a shared vision for what it is we do for children, how we facilitate their learning, and then you just stand back and don't tamper. What is it you need to work on, and how can we help? That's the first thing those are the 2 questions we'll ask on Tuesday, and then we'll get together on Tuesday mornings and a couple late start Wednesdays over the next few weeks, and we'll do the right work. And so when we think about that constancy of purpose, I lied to you, we're going to go to one more slide. This is a survey that I do with my teachers every year since this is my 5th year at Olmsted. We'll do this again. We do it before we leave for Thanksgiving break. And when I came to Olmsted, we started learning together and doing that work. And on this continuum, it goes from a continuum from 1 to 10 where they say their level of persistence. And back at the end where it says 1, it says improvement efforts, they shift when new fads or new trends come along. Doug reflected on that when he said he's been in education for 33 years, seen things come and go. But very veteran staff, they would say that same thing. One of the most rewarding things for me is seeing their growth in that level of their own persistence. We stay the course. We know what we're about, and that's what we do. And I'm excited to just be able to continually reinforce for them, I'm here for your learning. What do you need to work on? How can I help? And then we cultivate, we work on, we fertilize that vision, and we move forward. I am really excited and really passionate about our district. I think you've seen the kinds of people that are here. You talked about joy and pride in work. You know, I'm not here today because anybody paid me. I'm here because I'm proud of what we do. You know, I got up and left Des Moines at 5:30 this morning to come here when my house was dark and my kids were saying, my son came out and he's like, Dad, why are you up? I said, I remember I'm going to Ames today. I'll be back this afternoon. So, you know, I'm ready to go home and I'm ready to do something fun with my son this afternoon, but I'm here because I'm so proud of what we do. And you guys? So thank you, and if any questions.